So recently, I sat down and did a run of PSO2 from a brand new account all the way to the start of Endgame. And we're going to sit down and talk about everything that I experienced, from what went well to what I think could go better, and realistically, what the actual experience is for a new player when they're going through PSO2 NGS with absolutely zero knowledge for the very first time. Let's go ahead and jump into this. What is going on, my fellow weebs? Chrono here, and welcome back to the channel. So, as someone who's played the game for a very, very long time, you tend to forget how your new experience kind of went, like what you did, what you had to go through, what knowledge you may have already understood about the game, and what you may not have known. So, I got a lot of, I don't say a lot, but I got some, concerns from new players here and there just over my time playing PSO2 about, pitfalls, traps, places where they felt like there was no way for them to figure out what to do next. And I was curious. I wanted to know what actually happens to the new player experience, because a while back, SEGA made a claim that they basically removed every single battle power gate. And of course, me being someone who reports on news about PSO2, I reported that as news, and I've had players come back and tell me, "Oh, well, I got stuck at a battle power gate," and that was very confusing to me because it was under my, from what I understood at the very least, they'd removed battle power gates, right? They shouldn't be there anymore. So I went ahead and created a new account, completely brand new, fresh. Started a new character, and as you can see, in about 9 hours and 25 minutes, actually about 9 hours and 8 minutes, I did record this video beforehand on stream. I just didn't my thoughts weren't all there when I was doing it. I had just finished it. But in about 9 hours and 8 minutes, I went from a brand new account with absolutely nothing all the way to the very start of Endgame. Basically able to get in every piece of content to start farming all of my gear. That includes the seal, that includes limited quests and everything else. And I'm going to show you guys exactly what we have here and what we have to start with and what we have to work with. Now, just to kind of get a bit of disclaimer, there is an event going on currently that does increase the ability for me to create gear and things like that. That's why I didn't go directly into like starting to create this character's gear, because that wasn't really the point of this challenge. I wanted to go ahead and see what the experience was like overall for someone who was just starting the game up, just using what the game gave us for free, and just going where we were told to go from the very start of the game. So a big portion of this, because I know some people will be concerned. It's like, oh, well, you've played this before, you have previous knowledge, you know what to buy, you know what to set up, you know what to do. That's not what we did with this character. We actually didn't even take advantage of event weapons. By the time we were done, we were looking at 3.2 mil. This was all just what we earned from doing the story. What we actually did was we ran the primary story, and only the primary story, unless the primary story told us to do a side quest. So there were times during the story, and I'm gonna run over here and show you guys really quick. There were times during the story that we were pointed towards specific NPCs, like Gaiden. There's actually a quest now that points you directly to Gaiden to get the experience that you would normally get. In the past, we knew Gaiden had like a huge chunk of experience he would give you before specific regions. And as players, we all knew this when we found out about it, the morning of the event, or the morning of, a new expansion for the game. Someone would be like, "Oh, dude, Gaiden's got a quest, go grab it. You can get a bunch of levels." We'd go and grab this, and the only way you knew about it if you either ran over here by accident and talked to him, and you were just doing side quests, or if you were a part of Twitch streams and things like that. So the difference now is that they didn't actually fully remove Gaiden's huge chunk of experience. They removed part of it, and they also just baked the rest of it directly into the quests. Like, they put him directly in the main quest line. So Gaiden was one example. Gaiden, or you were led to Gaiden, which Gaiden would lead you all the way over here to Lydia, and we did Lydia's quest because Gaiden told us to do Lydia's quest. So we completed Lydia's quest. We got a hold of a lot of really useful stuff, one-time rewards, things like that you won't get a second time. Material storage. I believe we also got some color change passes. Yeah, we got a color change pass. Things like that. So we did look out there. Like I said, there are events going on right now. We could have very easily just taken, the anniversary tickets, farmed out some levels in our mission pass, and gotten a shop ticket and sold some stuff to get some more money, and then purchased some gear. We never did that. We never touched that at all. We also did Leah Lynn's quest. Fun fact, they also direct you directly to Leah Lynn and have you do quests from her. and completing the Leland quest actually gave us all of our Hexa gear. So we're going to talk about the gear we use throughout this entire chain. So at the very start, we start out with pretty much nothing. You have like prim weapons and stuff like that. Actually, do I have my so I started out as a force, I believe. Yeah, so that's what I started with, a prim rod. I started out as a force because you can't start as bouncer, and they tell you that you can play the other classes later on when you're first creating your character. It tells you, you know, these are the other classes you'll be able to unlock when you unlock the class counter. So the moment I was able to unlock the class counter, I went and swapped over to bouncer, and the minute I switched over to bouncer, was right when on the time frame that we got access to all the different weapons and stuff like that. So I got access to what I needed very, very quickly. I didn't need to purchase anything. I had access to those the hexa weapons, and I actually did multi them together because there was a quest that told you to multi-weapon things. So I multied my Hexa blades together. I never upgraded this. This is just what they come with. It's Trepidable Mastery 2 and Stamina 3. I was also given a set of armor. There was Rancia armor. And then you were also given a Quality armor, one of these here. Now this one may have been something that, you know, a new player may not have thought of at the time or something like that, but they ask you to get the armor to plus 45, and they give you a bunch of gold prim armors. Well, I had a Renessi armor at 39, so I just threw that in here to get it to 40. Or I'm sorry, to get it to 50. And afterwards, they gave me 2 more armors, so I just switched over to using all 3 of these armors right then and there. Granted, yes, I did save myself some gold prim armor 30 or plus 30s, but realistically, it's not a huge deal. Overall, you could have just as easily used these instead. But to get this armor to 50, they give you the materials immediately. And like, I'll show you guys really quick in my storage. I have a lot of materials from just like, hey, do this thing, upgrade this piece of gear, upgrade this piece of gear, upgrade that. You know, they literally give you the materials off the rip for you to be able to do this. Part of the new player experience as well is they give you access to material storage at the start, and you get access to all of these things. They hand you a bunch of stuff, like, you know, I got the legacy coordination badge for hair in the pose. These are all the things I got as drops as I was going through. We also made it a point never to stop and farm a single thing. We never stopped to farm any, you know, any PSC bursts. We never stopped to farm any zones. We never stopped to farm for any money. The only thing that we did that you could even consider a quote farm at all was whenever we were running around doing quests, I made it a point to kill any enemies that would give me crisp meat. That way, for the time that I was playing, I'd be able to go ahead and pop some buffs. The buffs themselves are something that you do get taught. They do show you how it works. They actually direct you right over to Franmir to go ahead and use the food stand to get buffs, and they actually send you out to go kill specifically the enemies that give you crisp meat. So I felt like that was totally okay. If you're paying attention to the actual buffs that you would get, you would understand that they're very useful since it was potency buffs. The other thing that we went ahead and grabbed that maybe a new player wouldn't really have known about off the rip, but it's, you know, it's one of those things that you can kind of get, anyone has access to. We did go ahead and pick up buffs off of the Alliance. Now, I'm not in an alliance. This character has no alliance whatsoever. We didn't join an alliance. I'm not even sure how I can show you I'm not in an alliance. I've always just either been in an alliance or I created my alliance. Here we go, alliance commands, here we go. I'm not in an alliance at all. However, you can go ahead, let's create a space, alliance space. You see there's nothing there, cool, great. It doesn't actually save my visited creative space, it's annoying, but you can go over here and you can go to any alliance. If you're on ship 2, just type in clock with a K. Capital K. Oh, switch the name. I'm dumb. Type in clock with a K. You can head right over to our alliance space. You can do this with any major alliance. I'll try to leave in the video description the different alliances that you guys are able to go to on different ships. I know of at least 3 on ship 1, 2, and 3. I can think of one off the top of my head. But as you can see here, bam, all the alliance buffs. It gave me, you know, a boost of HP, PP, potency, EXP boost, and a rare drop rate boost. Nothing too crazy. You could do definitely without this, and as you'll find out at the end of this, I didn't really need it. It just made combat that much easier overall. Going back, I'm going to talk about some of the moments where it kind of pushed us into doing specific things. So you kind of saw the gear that we worked with. Going forward, I think it's after this patch on the 4th, they actually be removing a piece of this gear. So we got access to Argenti at level 65. And what you'll find is that we never actually made a single piece of gear this entire time. We went from using Prim to Extra to Evil Coat, which they give you flat out. They actually ask you to go ahead and augment, which I just threw a Might 2 on it, because they give you materials specifically to do this. And they asked me to get this from 49 to 50, so we took care of doing that. They ask you to put this at what is it called, at potential level 3, which we go ahead and do that. But then we didn't upgrade it any further past that. We specifically only did the things that the games told us flat out to do to get ourselves set up. Now, there were points during the actual questing chain where originally there were battle power gates, but there was this really interesting thing that I didn't even know existed. So if you head over here, over to the help menu, head over to game guide, and go over to battle power, during each one of the points where there was to be a battle power gate normally, they actually tell you exactly what you need to reach that battle power gate. So this is the first time I talk about battle power. You can get there by equip 3 pieces of armor, strengthen yourself by equipping a weapon. So this first one, not a whole lot of information, right? It's kind of very, very basic. But when we get to about the second one here, they tell you flat out, hey, to get your battle power to 950, get main class level 10, learn 8 class skills, get your rarity of your weapon, get a rarity 1 weapon to plus 20, get a rarity 1 set of armor to plus 10, and add 4 augments to your currently equipped weapons and armor. So you basically get an actual blueprint of what you need to do to get to this battle power. But spoiler alert, I never had to do it. I always had the gear I needed the entire time. They give you this Hextra gear, and you see the Hextra blades are, let me pull them up over here instead. The Hextra blades are 3-star, and they're plus 40. The Renesia armor is 3-star and is plus 39. Now, granted, we could have put the plus 40, we just didn't because the game never told us we needed to. And honestly, we didn't really have to. We would have gotten an extra slot. We could have gotten some more, we definitely could have gotten some more to battle power. We could have swapped out some of these augments for some very, very cheap, good augments to use, right? Like if I were to go back and do this and I wanted to be as strong as I possibly could the entire time, utilizing every single piece of resource I could, but still keep it on the cheap, I would go back and I would swap out a lot of these things, right? Like we'd be switching out the soul for an actual soul that wouldn't give, we actually put a soul on here in the first place. We wouldn't be using stamina at all. Mastery 2 probably wouldn't have been on here. We'd be using something like, soul stat. I mean, it's just some of the cheap augments in general that you can use. I can't think of them off the top of my head because mostly I would go with LC augments nowadays. But there's a lot of cheap augments that are they almost cost nothing. You can go ahead and grab and use them. But the whole point is that we didn't want to use things that the game didn't tell us about, and we never needed to. Moving into the end of Redum, they asked us to go ahead and set up these evil coat weapons, which the main quest directly sends you to the character that tells you, hey, here's this gear, here's these materials, go ahead and upgrade this, right? And he gives you the money to upgrade it as well. As expensive as things are, they hand you the money to do this process too. So we did go ahead and use these evil coat blades. We didn't multi-weapon these primarily because 1, they didn't tell us to, they didn't give us the money and the gear to, and 2, realistically, I didn't need to. I didn't really felt the need to, use jet boots along with these soaring blades in my setup. Now, granted, if you opt to, that's totally up to you. We definitely had the materials to do so during the leveling process, but you flat out just don't have to as you're going through that process. When we were doing the story stuff, just to kind of get an idea, you can see my map here. We would complete the entire story, and after you completed the story, we would open up the interactive map online. Now, you didn't have to really do this. You could just explore it yourself if you wanted to take the time, but the interactive map is there to assist. You're more than welcome to do so. And what we did is we went ahead and we grabbed every single cocoon in the game. We took care of getting all the cocoons and all of the towers. And that's something that I would recommend you do as you're going through the leveling process. They take you to a cocoon. They tell you the cocoons give you your actual experience, or give you your skill points. And as soon as you get the skill point from completing the cocoon, the actual character sheet pops up, or the skill sheet pops up, and they allow you to put skill points in. So you know that you get skill points from completing cocoons for the first time, and they allow you to put skill points in immediately, so you understand that you need to put your skill points in to go ahead and get extra power. Now, a new player's not going to understand exactly how to build their character. That's something that people aren't going to get off the rip. You have to learn. So you guys are more than welcome to jump into Discord and ask us on our end here. But if you need like kind of a short Example, what I would always prioritize whenever I was going through this process was unlocking mechanics of the class first. So things like my block, things like specific abilities. Oh, I never opened up the loadouts thing. But things like specific abilities. So instead of like pushing into defeat amplifier, partial destroy up to 5 and 15, we'd take a point of fanatic blade, counter alternation, fanatic blade augment. We basically grabbed everything once that we needed to go ahead and get. And then we went ahead and started filling in defeat amplifier, partial advantage. We started going into decline gel in effect. We started going into, special or decline. We basically went and grabbed all the extra stuff. Of course, put a point here because it is technically a mechanic. Put a point here because, again, technically a mechanic, very useful. But we weren't really worried too much about anything extra outside of soaring blades. There is an optimal like setup for soaring blade jet boot gameplay. I couldn't remember what it was off the top of my head, and realistically, I was only playing soaring blades anyway. Didn't have to worry too much about doing the optimal setup between the two of them. But focus primarily, if you're not like looking at a specific guide, focus primarily on just grabbing mechanics from the class. We also had a subclass. We went with force primarily to make sure we didn't have to deal with any PP problems whatsoever as we were going through, since we didn't have access to add-on skills and things like that. We wanted to make sure it was a very smooth experience, so we just stuck with force. It made things very easy. If we had to AoE farm anything in a quest, it was very simple. We always had access to PP. And in that situation, we didn't really need to focus on mechanics. We focused on what we took the subclass for, and that was for the PP regeneration. So natural PP recovery, eradication, PP gain, PP conversion. Those were kind of like the bread and butter of the reason we picked the class for. So we took those first, and then we just kind of filled in slots and whatever wasn't main class specific. Now, not everything wasn't main class specific. Some things are main class specific. You can't really avoid everything that is main class specific, but we did put a point into everything because, as the game mentions, having points into your class skill tree gives you battle power. So it's very important that we made sure we took points no matter what the situation was, because we did want to increase our battle power as often as we could. Now, where did that leave us at the end, right? So we went through, we'd complete a zone, we'd get all of the cocoons, we double check them by clicking on them. You can see that skill points +1, you had a check mark, so good to go there. We complete them, move on to the next region, do the same thing. Complete the region. When it told us to go to the next region, we'd run around, pick up all the cocoons, all the towers, complete them. We specifically did them all solo. We never went into a group at all, but you don't have to. If you have some friends that are playing that want to help you out, your only concern is to complete the actual cocoon, complete the tower. You don't have to complete all the different challenges and things like that. Completing them does give you title rewards, so you will be able to get extra star gems, but you do not have to. We were just after it to grab the to get the skill points and then move on from there. So completed it, moved on, completed it. I mean, you can see there are little points that you would teleport normally, so Reeker, that I am missing. Like, I didn't grab all the Reeker as I was going through this because I didn't have to. You can go back, and I would recommend picking up all the Reeker. That way you can teleport around, get all the different places. Like, there's a purple trigger here, there's a Reeker here I know of. There is I think a yellow trigger out here. There was some trigger, I think a yellow trigger out here. I think there was a purple trigger out here. I didn't have this Reeker I need to go back and get. I would recommend picking them up though if it's your first time. Like, take your time and just finish out the map to the best of your ability, because you want to make sure that you can teleport around when you need to get to specific locations. That way you're not worried too much about, falling behind. Like, Belagana Ruins has 2 Reekers. I didn't get the second one because I never came back to Belagana Ruins. We never farmed. And then, of course, completed this here, completed the area here, got that taken care of. And by the time we were done, we had 47 skill points, which I believe is the cap. I want to say it's 47. For some reason, my brain is telling me 49 right now, so maybe I missed 2, but 47 is what we ended with, and that's what we currently have. So that's how we went through the entire map and picked up all of our skill points. Now, as far as where to go next, because I'm sure some people are like, oh, well, I've done this. Now what do I do? One thing you can do is run around and finish up your side quests and finish up these side stories. The side stories are kind of nice. They give a little bit more context, and I think they're worth doing. Getting the titles for completing certain things, as well as getting the star gems. Star gems are a very, very, very important resource that you want to go ahead and have access to. It does make your gearing process that much easier, because you are going to be working with things that are in the treasure shop. Granted, I don't have access to the premium stuff here, I don't think, right? I can't buy these, so I don't have access to the premium stuff, but of course there's still the treasure shop down here we can still get lucky on. And there's also, of course, things like material storage and so on and so forth. So you want to make sure that you are picking up as many star gems as you possibly can through your experience, through your adventures, because they are very useful. As far as the content we can do, we can go ahead and pop up for the quest counter and we can take a look. As you can see, we are high enough to do any of the LTQs that are going to be up. They're 3649 and we are 3979. We go over to the Lucille Exploration. Exploration is 3821. As like I mentioned, we're high enough to do that. Technically, we're high enough to actually run the Solus, which I would not recommend at all. Though you are high enough battle power, you don't have the gear. Unless you're like an absolute god gamer, I would not recommend touching this in the slightest. Or you have friends that are really, really strong that want to go ahead and help you get your clear really quick. Like that's pretty much it. Also with this, technically, I think we're high enough. There's at 3950. What are we? 39, 39. Yeah. Technically high enough to do both of those. I wouldn't recommend it. And then of course not high enough to do assign the Planet Breaker. Sorry, Planet Crusher Blitz. Those are kind of the quests that you're looking to do at the very end. Like that's your end game, completing those boss fights, properly geared up and able to actually take them down. That's pretty much your goal overall. If you're looking at like what my end game is, if not going into solo content and soloing fights, doing solo challenges and things of that sort. You guys can hear Finn wants to be a part of the video. I'm not sure if you could hear that, but apologies, buddy. Buddy, I'm recording. It's okay. Relax. It's fine. Yeah, I know. But that's pretty much it. We are set up currently to go ahead and get into the game itself. So we got 3.2 mil on a time frame that, you know, right now it's a little unfair because there are a bunch of reductions in costs on how to go ahead and set up your gear and things like that. You can see we have a bunch of things going on. We have augmentation boosts, we have the cost of enhancement decrease, so on and so forth at the moment. So it's a little bit unfair for someone who is jumping into this not during the event, but they do hand you up to 3.2 mil through the entire story process. Now, with this money, you could have spent this on fashion. I'm sure some people did, but if you were conscious and saved your money, this is actually enough money for you to be able to go ahead and set up a set of level 61 gear, 61 armor, specifically because it will get you all of your augmentation slots, and a set of level 80, or sorry, a level 80 weapon, fully unlocked, limit broken, and potential unlocked when it comes to the money side of things. You might have to do a little bit of farming to get, you know, the X cubes you might need, or any other resources, which those you can very easily gather from mining across the map. If you ever need any help figuring out where those are at, you can always, of course, look up some stuff online about it, or you can go out in the world and try to search for them yourself. Just set your mag sonar over to mining. I usually have mine set to mining, invisible boxes, dazzle, stellar graces, and that's about it. Also red containers. I would highly recommend having it set to that specifically as a new player to go ahead and be able to see or grab what is important. Now, granted, you can set it to the other resources, but mining give you so much unless you specifically need one resource and you need a lot of it right now. You can get away with just farming that each day at the start of your day when you start playing, and eventually you're going to have a good stock of resources that you don't have to worry too much about anything extra. Another really useful thing when you're looking at the starting of gearing is coming over here to Archie. Now, I was surprised. I always thought Archie's stuff was locked behind like chapter 5 of the story. I was able to do that at like level 15. After finishing like Alio, I was able to go ahead and come over to Archie, do Archie's first few quests, get into creative spaces very quickly. So if you are someone who isn't in creative spaces yet and you're like, oh, I was told I had to get to chapter 5, you don't. Come over to Archie, do their quests, and you're able to get into them immediately. I did some of Archie's side tasks because it was a chunk of experience, but I was like, you know what? The game doesn't tell you to do Archie's side tasks. Let's not worry about it. Let's move on from there. You do, however, have access to Archie's exchange shop. And this is a good spot to pick up things like the arms refiners, the photon chunks. You can pick up your first set of LCs, the Gladia, High Ale, all this stuff. You can pick these up early on to get your weapon set up if you want to. However, you can actually set up an armor piece earlier. I wouldn't recommend going with these personally. I would highly recommend actually going with a different set of armor so you can build them up over time. But you can pop over here, and as you can see, the iron armor is not expensive. It's very, very cheap. There's tons of fixes on them. So you're able to go ahead and get started on the current best in slot armor. Maybe not best in slot augmented, but best in slot armor in the game. As far as weapons, I wouldn't even look at a wingguard as I was starting out. I would definitely go with the weapon you get from completing the Lucille exploration, which is a silver weapon. I can show you where that's at in the exchange. But you do seal exploration, and then eventually either you get your silver to drop, or you would exchange for it at the exchange, growth and exchange 2. You exchange for it at the exchange itself. So I would highly recommend picking up a silver. They're very strong. It's a really good intro weapon to go ahead and start end game. And honestly, you could take this weapon, fully set it up, and you could pretty much beat every piece of content in the game with it. So I would highly recommend going in and knowing about that process. Set your weapon up. If you do get some drops, go ahead and exchange them from growth mints, and then take those growth mints and exchange them for the weapon you actually need. Get your weapon to plus 80, get your armor to plus 61, fully augment that armor and that gear. I have a video that shows where I would start at endgame with setting up my gear, so I'll go ahead and leave that linked. But from there, you can start slowly building yourself up towards endgame. And that pretty much covers everything. That's everything I did, everything that we went through. The reality was there wasn't a single point in the game that I couldn't progress based on the information they gave me. Even if I skipped past something, there was a point during the story. Actually, it was after you go from Gaiden over to Lydia. Lydia has a quest, because Gaiden tells you to do her side quest. Lydia has a side quest that tells you to go into system, go over to help, go over to game guide. So if you miss anything, these are all of the pop-ups of the different tutorials. And if you miss anything, they're right here. So even if you happen to click past them, let's say, for example, you were doing something you weren't reading. I mean, a lot of us do it. We all click past stuff. It's kind of in our nature. We want to start playing as soon as possible. That information is still all available here. Every single bit of it, like all of it, anything that we might have missed, it's all here. You can always come back to it. You can always come read it. The information is never too far. It's always available for you. And that's pretty much it. Let me know if there's anything you guys would like to hear about as far as the experience goes. I am going to upload the entire run through. I did it in 2 sittings. I foolishly started doing it after only 2 hours of sleep. So we did the first 4.5 hours 1 week, and then we finished out the last 4.5 hours just a couple of days ago. So I'm going to go ahead and upload that over to the VOD channel. We might make a super cut of it where I just, cut the important bits, but that's going to require a bit more editing. Maybe I'll get someone to work on that for me. We'll have to see how that goes. And then, of course, this account is going to sit here. I'm not going to really do anything with him. We might opt to do, if things get really, really stale and I have a ton of time, we may opt to do like a build of, getting him ready to jump into like, Fall Stallion or something like that. I don't foresee that being the case. That just requires time. It's not really super difficult. It's actually very straightforward. And I've already shown how to gear yourself up multiple times, but I'll leave that up to you guys. Maybe that's something that people are interested in seeing and exactly how we'd go about it. But if you are someone who's curious about it and you're like, what should I do? Just go start farming Lucille. Start farming Lucille. Start farming deck space. Go for PSE bursts. Farm your money. Get money. Realistically, just get points, get money. If it's during this event, get your points, trade them with Zia Emmy. I'll probably have a video released sometime this week talking about things to purchase from Zia Emmy. But realistically, it's always the same. So either ask a friend or check out one of my previous videos where I go into that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm really bad at ending videos, guys. Let me know if there's anything I missed in the comments below. Do all the YouTube things. They do help out a ton. I'll see you all next time. Take care, my friends. Peace out.